All right, let's dive into a really incredible story of resilience. We're going to look at how this community, basically uprooted and thrown into a harsh new world, did more than just survive. They took this desolate valley and turned it into a home, all through sheer will and teamwork. And this quote, wow, it just hits you, right? It sets the entire tone for what we're about to see. It tells us that this wasn't a story about fear or what they didn't have. Nope. From day one, the foundation they built on was pure, unshakable resolve. Okay, so I want you to really picture this. It's late spring. They've just arrived in this valley. And the first thing they notice is the wind. It never stops. And it's not just wind, it's carrying dust. The air is thick with it, a constant, gritty reminder that they are miles and miles from anything they've ever known. And this is where it gets really tough. I mean, think about where they came from, the forests of Canada, right? A world where wood was everywhere. And now, nothing, just dust and wind. They're living in flimsy tents, totally exposed, and the one thing they knew how to build with is gone. The very ground under their feet was their first huge challenge. So what do you do, right, when everything you know is useless? Well, you adapt. You have to. If you can't build with wood, you find what the land does give you. And for them, the most abundant resource they had was literally the ground beneath their feet, the earth itself. And this is just brilliant. It shows how incredibly resourceful they were. This wasn't just backbreaking labor, They had to learn a whole new craft right there on the spot. You can almost feel that rhythm of the work, digging up that clay, mixing in the straw, packing the molds, and then just letting that intense sun bake it all solid. They were turning mud into the very foundation of their future. And right in the middle of all this work, all this struggle for survival, we get this one perfect human moment. A little girl, Elena, watching these thick mud brick walls rise, just asks her mom, "Is this our house now?" It just cuts through everything, doesn't it? It brings this huge historic effort right down to the most basic, simple desire we all have, a place to call home. Her mother's answer, it's just so profound. Not yet, but it's becoming. Think about that. She's saying a house isn't just a thing you build and suddenly, poof, it's a home. It's a process. It's an act of becoming. It's all the work, all the hope, all the life that you pour into those walls that actually makes it a home. So, as these personal houses start to take shape, you see their mindset shift. It's not just about my family anymore. Their very next move was to think about the us, the whole community. And so they immediately started working on something they could all share, something central, their church. And look, this was way more than just another construction job. It was deeply symbolic. Everyone, and I mean every single person, men, women, even the children, they all had a hand in it. That stone foundation they laid for the church, it was also the foundation for their entire new life together, both spiritually and as a community. And Bishop Dyke, his words here are just so powerful because they're so humble. He's basically saying, hey, God doesn't live inside these walls. He's reminding everyone that the building is just a tool. It's a special place they all created, together, where they could gather as a community and remember what's important. All right, so they've got shelter, they've got their spiritual center, things are looking up. But now comes the real test, the one that decides everything. Can they actually feed themselves? I mean, these people were farmers through and through, but everything they thought they knew about farming was about to be turned completely upside down. And this just lays out their struggle so clearly. Back in Manitoba, it was all about wheat. Here, the wheat crop was a total disaster. The rains they were used to just never came. So they had to learn, and they had to learn fast. They watched. They saw what did survive, corn and beans. They started digging irrigation ditches by hand. They were rewriting their entire playbook, replacing old knowledge with brand new, hard-won wisdom. So when they finally brought in that first harvest, you have to imagine it wasn't a huge party. It was probably pretty small, pretty thin. But the feeling, it wasn't wild joy. It was something much deeper. Relief, gratitude. It was the quiet hope you can feel in just 3 words, enough to begin. It wasn't a feast, but it was enough. And enough was everything. Okay, so survival is basically secured. They have a foothold. Now the next phase begins. They start to bring back the rhythms of a real society. This is about way more than just food and houses now. It's about rebuilding a culture from the ground up. I absolutely love this idea. Stitched time back into their days. Before this, can you imagine? A day was probably just sunrise to sunset, a blur of work. But now, these little iron bells, they bring order. A bell for meals, a bell for school, a bell for worship. They're literally weaving the fabric of their community together again, creating a shared pulse for everyone to live by. And once you have that order, you can have a school. And look at what they chose to teach. It tells you everything about their priorities. God's word, yes, but also practical skills like math and reading. But here's the kicker. They taught it all in German. That was a conscious choice. They were fighting to keep their culture, their identity, alive and pass it down to the next generation. And that's really the whole point, isn't it? That little school was about so much more than just learning your letters. By being together, learning in their own language, surrounded by their own values, these kids were building something powerful, a sense of community. They weren't just learning arithmetic. They were learning that they belonged to each other and to this new valley. So let's just zoom out for a second and appreciate what has happened here. We're talking about a single season. By the time autumn rolls around, this valley is unrecognizable. It's been completely transformed, not just by their hands, but by their hearts. This timeline is just staggering when you really look at it. We're talking about a matter of months. They went from homeless travelers in a dust bowl to a fully established colony, from living in tents to having solid adobe homes, from staring starvation in the face to bringing in a harvest. The speed is just breathtaking, and it was all powered by that one thing, resolve. And it all comes back to Bishop Dyke. You can just picture him, can't you? Looking out at dusk, seeing the lights glow in the windows, the smoke curling up from the chimneys of the village they built from nothing. His words just bring it all home. The valley that was once so harsh, it's now a valley of promise. A promise they didn't just find, but a promise they made real with their own two hands. So it leaves us with this one big question, right? What really turns a piece of dirt into a home? And if this story teaches us anything, it's that it's so much more than walls and a roof. It's the shared struggle, the ingenuity, the community. And maybe most of all, it's that stubborn, unwavering resolve to not just occupy a space, but to truly make it your own.